Howdy folks, it is monthly update time. We are in a new month. It is April. This is not April Fools, but I've got some new rugby jerseys to show you. A couple of packages arrived in the month of March. We're going to have a quick look back at March with some stats and some thanks, plus a look at some current news headlines and an alleged or potential poaching story between Ireland and Australia, the new Nations Cup, which is coming, and then New Zealand and South Africa having a pretty torrid time with a couple of big name guys being out injured for the long term. But firstly, this is the time when I get to say thank you guys for being here, for subscribing, for liking, for commenting, watching, all that kind of stuff, wherever you are in the world, whatever age you are. We'll get to some of those stats in a second. Thank you so much for being here. I do need to say special thanks to Marc and to Graham for sending through some rugby jerseys. Marc, in the past, has sent through loads of jerseys, including that Leinster one there. He sent through this one, which I just opened. It is Zimbabwe, ahead of the next World Cup. Great to have a Zimbabwe jersey. Can't have been an easy one to source, Mark, but thank you so much for sending this through. Look at these hoops, and if you look a bit closer, I don't know if you can see that, but look, there's like animals on the actual hoops. So it's a jersey with a bit of detail on it. So yes, thank you so much for that one, Mark. That is, as I said, a very tough one, I guess, to just find. You don't just rock down to the shops here on Queen Street in Auckland and pick up a Zimbabwe rugby jersey. So the Sables added to the collection. Plus, Graham sent through a commemorative edition Scotland one with that logo, which is not the kind of standard Scottish logo. So how many years was it? Was it 100 years? So another Scottish jersey. The Scottish ones are starting to dominate in terms of the numbers. I don't know how many Scottish jerseys they've got now. Those are adding up. And then another new one also from Graham, which is the Barbars jersey. I had ordered a Barbars jersey years ago, but Lovell Rugby, after I placed the order, said, sorry, we're out of stock. So Barbars added to the collection. It's another hooped one. They don't have any animals in their hoops. It is more just kind of patterns with the Barbars. So cheers to Graham for that one as well, and to Mark. Graham did send through a quick note which said, hope these find you well with your family. I had a Bristol one as well, but I don't know where I've put it, so that one's gone walkabouts. But yeah, he says all the best from a still frosty Scotland. So cheers, Graham, for sending that through. Hopefully it's warmed up a bit since you sent that, because it's been a couple of weeks since the thing arrived. So thank you, chaps, both for that. I'll also say a quick thanks to the patrons. I'll scroll their names up here. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. There's a link down to Patreon in the description. We do extra videos for Patreon, sometimes put out videos earlier for patrons before they go up on the YouTube channel proper. Special thanks to Jack and Angus for your support, but these guys genuinely help keep the channel alive. So to all you people, if you want to support the channel, that is certainly a great way to do it down on Patreon, just like all these folks. Your name could be here. Some stats and thanks from the month that was. It was a big month with the conclusion of the Six Nations, perhaps unsurprisingly. Top video was a World Rankings one related to some changes for the Six Nations. It was Italy's rise throughout the ranks after they beat England. It did hurt them a little bit that they lost the final game in terms of their rankings, but it was certainly big news. And in terms of geographies, maybe unsurprising with the Six Nations on, UK is number 1, Ireland is number 2, and then we got the Southern Hemisphere connection with South Africa, New Zealand, and Australia rounding out the top 5. I also like to drill down on cities. Dublin, Cape Town, London, Auckland, Sydney, and Edinburgh were the top cities. And when I kept scrolling down, I always like to see if there's a name that I don't quite recognize, and I saw Lisbon, which is not the city in Portugal, but it's a place in Northern Ireland. Lisburn. Spelt Lisburn, B-U-R-N. Apparently it's in Northern Ireland. Not too far from Belfast. I haven't been there. Maybe not quite as famous as the Portuguese Lisbon, but there you go. All 416 views came from Lisbon. Thank you, guys. Thank you for wherever you're watching from, whatever your age range is. And the age range is a really even split. There's only like 3% between the 65-year-old plus to the 25 to 34-year-olds. You're a real mixed bunch. So welcome along. Thank you for being here. You guys are the fabric, I guess, of making the channel what it is. The community here is quite exceptional. So thank you for being here. Thanks to the patrons. Thanks to Mark and to Graham. You guys are all awesome patrons. Fantastic bunch of people, all of you. Now, some rugby news. Poaching. There's this Australian prop with a very Italian-sounding name, Massimo De Lutiis. He plays for the Queensland Reds. His name has been popping up in the media because apparently he's got an Irish grandmother and could potentially play for Ireland. You do have to wonder, as a number of people have speculated, whether his name coming up in the news has anything to do with his agent, because it seems like they're maybe trying to trigger a bit of a bidding war for this guy's services. He has been capped by Australia A, but that was a wee while ago. He's been injured for quite some time. So potentially at 22 years old could be an Irish prop in the future. I think he's also Italian eligible, or could be a Wallaby. Is he being poached? He's 22 years old. So it could be that he gets a big money offer from an Irish province. It could be that he re-signs with the Reds. Who knows what is going to happen with this guy. Where you draw the line about what is poaching and what is not poaching, each person seems to have a different opinion. If the Irish grab this guy at 22 years old and he goes on to be an Irish international, has he been poached coming over as an adult? Did Ireland poach Bundy Aki or James Lowe, who probably weren't on track to be All Blacks, improved their game over in Ireland and then, became Irish citizens? Is that poaching? New Zealand's high schools often send scouts out to, not New Zealand rugby, but high schools get players from the Pacific. They go to school here. Is that poaching if they went to high school here? If someone moves over as a kid, is it poaching? Where you guys draw the line, you'll each have a different conclusion. That is just human nature. Everyone will have a different opinion about that one. Like I said, it seems like, given that there's no real official news yet, like a bit of a storm in a teacup. Personally, I'd like to see him play for Australia. If he's grown up in Australia, if he's represented Australia A, if he's playing for the Reds, it would make sense for him to become a Wallaby if he is good enough to get to that level. But if he was to take a big money offer somewhere else, could you blame the guy? A lot of people have done it in the past. I mean, there's always names that are going to get brought up. Filippo Daugunu moved to Australia to play rugby. Did the Aussies poach him? I don't think they went looking for him, but he certainly moved to Australia for further opportunities. Samasoni Taukei'aho came to New Zealand on a rugby scholarship. Could have played for Tonga, chose to play for New Zealand. Ultimately, there's nobody pointing a gun to this guy's head and saying, you have to do this, you have to do that. He's a 22-year-old man. He will make his own decisions. But, yeah, we'll see if it ends up being a bit of a storm in a teacup or if anything actually eventuates from all these rumours. Either way, getting his name out in the media is probably going to make for a pretty good contract offer from whoever comes offering it. Then the Nations Cup has been in the news. This is not the Nations one, which has got the Nations League with the top Nations Championship, which has got the top Tier 1 teams. This is the Nations Cup. So kind of like the Tier 2 one. They've announced how it's going to be. There's going to be 2 pools from the kind of Tier 2 teams. So you got Canada, Chile, Samoa, Tonga, Uruguay, and USA in one pool. And then Georgia, Hong Kong, Portugal, Romania, Spain, and Zimbabwe in another pool. They're going to play each other. If you're in Pool A, you'll play the teams from Pool B, and vice versa. And then whoever's at the top of their pool at the end of the championship will be champion of their pool. So there'll be 2 champions, which for me seems like a missed opportunity because as a human, you want 1 champion. You don't want 2 champions. That's dumb. This seems like a bit of a missed opportunity. To either play the top team from A against B would make most logical sense to me, but they would have already played each other, so potentially you could just go the 2 teams with the best records. Like in theory, you could have 2 teams from Pool A or 2 teams from Pool B go undefeated against their opposition from the opposite pool. Like Georgia and Portugal potentially beat all of the 6 teams in Pool A. Wouldn't it be nice to see them play off against each other for a kind of champion of champions? That would make more sense to me. But at least these guys are getting games. They're going to be played in July and November during the test windows. These nations need more regular fixtures, so at least they are getting that. That is the positive. The fact that there's not a champions match at the end seems like a bit of a missed opportunity for mine. Obviously, finances, travel, spots in the fixtures list, calendar, these are all hard things to squeeze in, but 2 champions feels a little bit off for mine. And then a couple of injuries. Like I said, Snyman is out injured with an ACL injury for Leinster, so his season is done. For club rugby, will he be back in time for the Box? I hope so, ahead of the Greatest Rivalry Tour, but we'll have to wait and see what the prognosis is for him. And then Tamaiti Williams, who's another guy in terms of poaching, who has an interesting story because he's a Kiwi, but grew up in Australia, played for the All Blacks. It's always grey. It's never black and white. He's got a very firm connection to both countries, but he's an All Black, but he's also got an infection, I think, in his spine. So his Super Rugby season is done. We'll be hoping he's back for the All Blacks. But either way, Snyman or Williams, if they are back for international rugby, are not going to be coming in, with a full season of club rugby under their belts. So they're going to take a while to get back up to speed. But anyway, that is the rugby update for the month. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks, lads, for the jerseys. Thanks, patrons, for the support. Anybody who did buy me a beer down in the description, thank you guys so much for that, for being here, subscribing, liking. You guys are awesome. Let me know your thoughts on the rugby news. You guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.